Yeah. Interesting. Mike, you have some thoughts?
Yeah. So I'll give you two examples of how I think generative AI and especially LLMs are going to totally change the game. Number one is no one thinks about this, but synthetic data, which I'm like calling right now, I think it's a huge opportunity. I did fraud detection for a number of years. And what that means is you go to banks, you say, listen, I need highly sensitive social security numbers, consumer data, fraud data. You need to share that with me. And they immediately clam up. And then you come up with all these crazy ways to encrypt the data and to get them comfortable with the notion of sharing it because we pool it across multiple banks. Like, what if I can make a copy of your data set and the copy I get has no personal identifiers, but it looks like real data and it acts like real data and smells like real data. So for me, I think no one's talking about synthetic data and it's going to be a real thing in the next 3 to 5 years. And it's going to totally kind of loosen up our stranglehold on data. And that's going to enable all sorts of experimentation. So that's one. And that's a real clear implication of Gen AI. And number two is, this is more around large language models, but the ability to parse all this data to then get to like nuggets of information is really valuable. And what I mean by that is, I'll tell the story. The founding of Brex is really interesting. So I love to share this story, which is the founders were starting an entirely different startup. They applied for a credit card. They got denied. I think it was by American Express. And it's because startups don't look good, very creditworthy, right? And they realized because they have no revenues and they have absolutely, you know what I mean? There's no credit history. And so they got denied and they thought, this is insane. We're going to start our own company. And it's obviously done well. And my point is, old institutions don't know how to risk adjust properly and to use all the information that's available. And with LLMs, there's the ability, I do demos when I go on stage and I feed an LLM the King James Bible. It eats it up in a second. And then I can ask questions about it. And it's able to extract information that no human being could do. They'd have to read through it. So my point is like, all this unstructured data that's totally untapped by fintechs, they're just not using it all. They're going to be able to use it. And a friend in reinsurance, I'll say one more thing and I'll pause. He does reinsurance work and he says 80 to 90% of the applications are unstructured data. Well, they're almost all unstructured data. 80 to 90% is not even touched. It's not even read. So what if you could build models that can risk adjust and premium adjust based on all this information that wasn't being used? Like, I think it's going to be a game changer for the ability of banks and lenders to kind of make, good credit and lending decisions.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I want to build off that just for a question for a second. I read that, banks like HSBC are already incorporating, AI heavily, and they have nearly 1,000 applications of AI. This was just HSBC. So I'm like, that seems like they're far along. As we think about the industry, you mentioned all this synthetic data, customized LLMs, like all these different applications where we can, both analyze these data sets and be much quicker in our personalization or our capabilities. Like, are we far along, in I know AI has gone through waves and we're in this recent sort of generative AI wave, but like, how far along are we? Are we just starting, or are we like halfway there? What's your perspective, Mike, on kind of the penetration of AI technology in fintech today?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's actually early in the journey. And my experience is, especially with Gen AI, what everyone's doing right now is they're looking across the organization. They're saying, where are all our knowledge workers, right? Because at their core, these technologies scale intelligence, right? They enhance and sometimes replace knowledge workers. So they're saying, who's in our organization? What do they spend their time doing? And can we supplement them with Gen AI technology so that they get their time back so they can be doing more value add stuff? And I think that's going to impact fintech the same way it does any other type of technology. What I don't see them doing, and I think Fernando kind of addressed this really nicely, is they're not thinking about how is this going to upend the model of what I do? Like, imagine a credit or a lending product that's personalized, like hyper personalized. It's a single person product, right? Based on your unique needs and your footprint digitally. Like, that, I think, is going to completely upend the industry. I don't think banks are going to understand how to deal with that, right? That's just, they're not equipped to do that. So for me, I think we're somewhere along the journey because they're looking at these technologies like chatbots.